Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being here. We have just finished the second day of the Executive Board here in Kuala Lumpur. Without further delay, I'll introduce the President, President Thomas Bach, who will make a few introductory remarks, and then we'll happily go to your questions. President.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. For once, I do not have to apologize for being too late, this is also a good start, maybe after a good Executive Board meeting we had, a pretty short one, only 1 day and a half, because we just had a meeting 7 weeks ago in Lausanne. The focus were, of course, the upcoming Olympic Games. There we had a meeting with the organizing committee of Rio 2016, where we got an update on the latest progress with regard to construction of the different venues, including the Olympic Village. We heard that they are preparing very well the 44 test events which are coming up. And I will attend there next week, the rowing test event, which will coincide with the 1 year to go celebrations on the 5th of August in Rio de Janeiro. We have also been talking about the challenges. Of course, Rio is facing, and that it is there always the same, that on the one hand we see great progress, on the other hand there is no time to lose. But given the fact that the organizing committee has acknowledged these challenges, we are very confident that we will have great games in 1 year from now, because acknowledging challenges is the first and the most important step to overcome them and to address them. Then we had Pyeongchang 2018, there a progress report, very precise. We had a report about the progress in construction, and for the first time I learned how exactly you can measure progress in construction. There were figures giving that in one of the venues it is 26.1% of completion. So I will look very carefully in 3 days when they present in the session whether then they have made progress to 26.2%, maybe up to the 0.1%. So there we see good progress. We see also some progress in the on the marketing side with a new top-tier partner they have just signed last week. Tokyo 2020. Again, there we see that Tokyo is really embracing Olympic Agenda 2020. 50% of the venues being used in Tokyo after the changes now will be existing venues. We have, out of the sports venues, we have 26 already being approved, what leads there to savings, as you know, about 1.7 billion US dollars, and there are a couple of other hundreds of $millions in the pipeline, because the new national stadium will be less expensive than the stadium which was planned before. There, of course, we have also discussed this issue. even if the stadium is an issue for the Japanese government and not for the organizing committee. But the IOC, of course, is respecting the fact that there we have seen dramatic changes compared to the time of bidding by Tokyo 2020. The construction costs, for different reasons, have just gone through the roof. Not only for the stadium, but construction costs in Japan in general, because the construction material costs much more than just 2 years before. These are circumstances which are beyond the control of the organizing committee and of the government, and this is why we are respecting this decision, being sure that Tokyo will have a state-of-the-art stadium with the best possible conditions for athletes and spectators for the Olympic Games 2020. And there we have also offered our support and our input when it comes now to put the tender for the stadium together, so that we can be sure from the very beginning that the interests of the athletes and spectators are being taken into consideration from the very beginning of the planning of the stadium. The other major part was about the Olympic Agenda 2020. Here we have reviewed, therefore, last time the host city contract for 2022. This contract can now be released for the first time, will be made public by the IOC on the 31st of July, in a couple of days. In this contract, you can also see the anticipated contribution from the IOC, which will again be a significant, around $800 million plus for the organizers. We have also, in the framework of Olympic Agenda 2020, discussed the recommendation number 1 again, where we have what concerns the cost of bidding, where we have reduced the service fee from the IOC for the IOC to be paid by the candidate cities from 650,000, before it was 500 plus 150,000 in the second phase, from this 650,000 to 250,000, being paid in 3 installments during the bid phase. So the initial contribution will be 50,000, the second 50,000, and then in the third phase 150,000. We have done this even if we provide, according to Olympic Agenda 2020, much more service and advice to the candidate cities, because we said to the candidate cities and to the potential candidate cities already in the invitation phase, there is no need for candidate cities to buy all these services and advice from third parties. You can get a lot of this service and advice directly from the IOC. So there we have really increased the offer for knowledge transfer, for advice and for services, but nevertheless reduced this contribution because, on the other hand, we could see that in the last 15 months we have signed agreements, marketing agreements and TV rights agreements adding up to $14 billion. And there we are already giving back something of this success to the bidding cities. And how much we are putting the candidate cities there on center stage. I think you can also see from the new presentation room we are offering where the candidate cities with their presentation have a state-of-the-art environment up to the technology standards we also expect from them and their presentation. And we have, with regard to setting, there also approved the new setting for the meeting room of the IOC, which is a parliamentarian style meeting room, which will facilitate dialogue, which will create much more interaction than previous rooms. And therefore, if here if it's up to our expectations, then with this new room, we will travel from session to session, so that we will have this parliamentarian style, encouraging a dialogue and discussion in the spirit of Olympic Agenda 2020 at all our sessions. Finally, we have approved the sports program for the for the Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires, where we will have a record female participation, and where we will have quite a few innovations. They're also in the program. They're with regard to a more urban approach for some sports, so where we want to bring sports really to the people rather than waiting for the people coming to sports. So it will be an urban setting in part of the BMX and other events. We will also have some innovations like beach handball, which will be introduced, and a number of other youth appealing events for these youth games. And some of these youth appealing events you will also see in the Winter Youth Olympic Games in Lillehammer, which we will see in about 6 months from now. And there we can say the preparations are going very smoothly, and I think we will have good Youth Olympic Games there in Lillehammer in a good winter sports atmosphere.
Thank you, President. Okay, I'm happy to take questions now. We'll start with Mr. Ed Hula in the front row here, please. We get a microphone.
Hi, Ed Hula from Around the Rings. Despite the changes that have come about as a result of Olympic Agenda 2020 to make bidding less expensive, not as cumbersome a project, in the United States, in Boston, that has not made any difference. People there apparently are still concerned about taxpayer liabilities, about how costly it could be to hold the Olympics in their city. It could threaten the possibility of future United States Olympic bids. Are you a little frustrated that the message, the reforms that Olympic Agenda 2020 are supposed to deliver have not been heard? And who bears responsibility for telling prospective cities in the United States that, about these changes and about whether an Olympic bid is feasible for taxpayers to accept?
Well, thank you very much for this question, which is more an interpretation of what happened there. The IOC, we are not concerned at all, because for us the situation has not changed. We had a commitment from United States Olympic Committee for an Olympic candidature for 2024, and we have this commitment, and we're sure that USOC will deliver on this commitment, and that we will have on the 15th of September a bid from the United States. It is up to the candidate, to the relevant National Olympic Committee to choose the right city. There, the invitation phase is offering more opportunities and better opportunities already for the National Olympic Committee to see and to evaluate which city is the better one. And what we have seen there from the outside, I haven't been, at some stage I gave up following, because it was pretty confusing. Every day there was a new project coming from Boston, on new people and new ideas. So I really gave up their following in detail. But what we could see is, in a nutshell, what happened there is quite simply that Boston obviously did not deliver on the promises they made to USOC when they were selected, and therefore we can understand the decision by USOC, and we are looking forward to an American bid with another city. The United States is one of the few countries in the world who has the luxury of having a number of cities which are capable of organizing Olympic Games.
Yeah, Carlos, I think. Wakako and then Carlos. Yeah. Wakako here.
Thank you very much. Wakako Yuki from the Yomiuri Shimbun, President. When Prime Minister Abe scrapped the National Stadium, he cited that if it goes on, then it might negatively affect public support to the Olympic Games itself. After what happened in Tokyo and perhaps in Boston, could you tell us how vital those public support can be for the future of the Olympic movement, and how your leadership with help of Agenda 2020 try to make people understand that cost itself is not relevant, but it has to be seen in a perspective?
Public support has always been important and will always be important. Already when it comes to the election of host cities, we want to send the athletes only to cities where they are welcome. And that when it comes to have good public support, that then financial issues are playing a more important role in times of financial crisis goes without saying. And so we, as I explained, we have seen there the rising construction costs overall in Tokyo, And we have also, in the spirit of Olympic Agenda 2020, always said that when it comes to make the games more feasible, that then the IOC will be very flexible. So again, first of all, it was and is a decision of the Japanese government, but we respect and can understand that in such times you would not like to build the most expensive stadium in the world. What we need is state of the art for athletes and spectators, and I'm sure we will get it.
Yeah, Carlos down here.
Mr. President, I'm from CCTV, Jiang Ping. My question is concerning the Agenda 2020. From the past couple of days, we noticed that great changes have taken place for the sessions, the designs and the forms of the meetings are much more different from the previous sessions. And in terms of the content, there are also some changes. So my question is what part of the Agenda 2020 is much more progressive, and which part are not so desirable to you? Thank you.
I think we made great progress in different parts of Olympic Agenda 2020. The most obvious one is the bidding procedure and the evaluation procedure, where we have already applied Olympic Agenda 2020, and you can see the results. There again, with regard to Tokyo, with the savings being achieved in 7 months of 1.7 billion, and with the stadium decision and everything together, I'm pretty sure we will go beyond the 2 billion in this. You see it at the same time in the evaluation for 2022, where the Evaluation Commission report has a new quality, being much more clear with regard to opportunities and risks, and also addressing the fundamental principles of the Olympic Charter. You see it in the strong interest for 2024, with bids or commitments from United States, from France, from Germany, from Hungary, and from Italy, and some discussions going on still in other countries. So I think this is the most obvious. At the same time, we are making very good progress with the Olympic Channel, and they're getting great support also from our TV rights holders, who are supporting these efforts. I already mentioned the great results we are achieving based on Agenda 2020 in marketing and financial stability of the IOC, because in all these negotiations there we have Agenda 2020 is playing a major role, and there you can see the great confidence there our partners are putting in the IOC by concluding such long-term contracts. Obviously, they think that we are on the right track there with Olympic Agenda 2020. We have, with regard to the issue of credibility, addressed all the recommendations. They are all implemented. You will get here during the session the first annual report of the IOC for the year 2014, where you will see all the revenue streams, where the money is coming from, where it's going to. The accounts will be audited by IFRS standards. You will see the first election of the members of the Ethics Commission, and so on and so on. So the implementation of Olympic agenda is going much faster than I have to admit than I expected, and the results and the response we get are really very, very positive from all the stakeholders.
Yeah, Carlos over here.
Carlos Groman from Reuters. Mr. President, a question on the stadium again. Given that it is the centerpiece for the Olympics, and given that there was the decision by the Japanese government to change the plans, how will you be monitoring the progress, or what will be the involvement of the IOC be in this government-led project rather than an organizers-led project? Thank you.
We will, and this we have made clear here in the Executive Board meeting that we want to be involved in the tender, so that the tender is already worded and put together in a way that all the Olympic requirements are taken into consideration, and that there are no surprises then in 1 year or half a year, neither for the government nor for the IOC. So involvement from the very beginning, and then there will be the monitoring by the Coordination Commission, like for all other Olympic projects.
Yeah, so AFP over at the back there, I think, wanted to ask a question. Yeah, Eric. Yeah, just on the other side there. Then we'll come down to Steve.
Monsieur le Président, une question en français. Vous avez mis l'accent dans l'agenda 2020 sur le respect accru des droits de l'homme et de la charte olympique. En quoi les contrats de ville qui vont être signés avec Almaty et Pékin garantissent mieux le respect de cette charte et des droits de l'homme que par rapport à Sochi?
Vous verrez quand on publiera le contrat fin de ce mois que les changements qui ont été introduits par l'agenda 2020 sont déjà aussi respectés dans le contrat pour 2020. Alors, ça veut dire que le principe que c'est la responsabilité du CEO d'assurer le respect pour la charte olympique et pour le contrat est assuré par les villes d'organisation pendant le jeu et pour toutes les affaires directement liées aux Jeux olympiques. Et ça, vous allez trouver dans le contrat de la ville hôte, il inclut le principe fondamental numéro 6, ça veut dire le respect de la tolérance, de la non-discrimination, mais vous allez aussi trouver un paragraphe qui concerne, par exemple, le free reporting des jeux et des autres principes inclus dans le principe fondamental numéro 6 qui, comme vous savez bien, s'allie à la Déclaration de droits de l'homme des Nations Unies.
Steve Wilson from AP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Steve Wilson from AP. Back to the USOC and Boston issue. You made quite clear what happened in a nutshell there. Have you been in touch with the USOC in the last day or two about the future, what they will be doing now to get another bid city in place before September 15? And do you have a particular personal view about the possibility of Los Angeles as another host city for bidding again, and what they would bring to the table in a positive way? And in the same light, is it potential that the problems that beset Boston in terms of public opposition and political issues could still raise their head again with another city such as Los Angeles, and in the host city, in the host city contract being signed by the city, which is always an issue, as you know, for the U.S.? Thank you for that.
No, first of all, again, we have this commitment from the United States Olympic Committee for a U.S. candidature for 2024, and I have no reason to doubt this commitment by USOC. It is now an internal issue for USOC to determine the most appropriate city, and I think it's not up to the IOC there to give advice, to give unsolicited advice on this. And there, I'm sure that USOC will find the best solution. Of course, you cannot exclude any kind of discussion in any city of the world. This is a democracy. This we fully respect, and to make this discussion a little bit more oriented on facts than on emotions. This is one of the reasons why we are publishing the host city contract, why we have introduced this invitation phase to show in a very transparent way what it means organizing Olympic Games, and which great advantages and legacies Olympic Games mean for an organizing city and country. And there again, we are very happy with the discussions we had in this respect with the national Olympic committees from France, Germany, Hungary, and Italy, who understand this very well, who communicated this obviously very well, and who therefore enjoy also good public support for their candidatures.
Time for a few more questions. Gentleman here has been waiting a long time, and then gentleman there. Let's see.
Thank you, Aronson, on behalf of the China Daily. President, you've been mentioning a lot about the 2020 agenda, how it will optimize the bidding process for future Olympics towards economic delivery of the Games. And the bidding for 2022 Winter Olympics as such, maybe first of such initiative and the new agenda. So I know it's a sensitive moment right now. Could you share with us a little bit thoughts on to what extent the both bid have complied to the new agenda in that regards? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. In fact, the 22 is the last one before Olympic Agenda 2020. But nevertheless, we can see already some significant effects. Both candidate cities have adjusted their project significantly after the approval of Olympic Agenda 2020 and in discussion with the IOC and with the Evaluation Commission. And there may be the most obvious fact is that you see that the costs for the expenditures for the infrastructure or for the investment budget are down to 1.85 billion or 1.5 billion respectively. And if you consider the fact that in these infrastructure costs, the Olympic Village is included, and how much the population will benefit for generations to come from this investment. There you see an immense effect of Olympic Agenda 2020, and you see the same effect in the operational budget, which is below $1.8 billion in both candidate cities. What means that this budget will at least break even. I guess it will even be very profitable because already of the high contribution by the IOC of 800 million plus for the organizing committee. And if you look then at the high interest of the market in Olympic Games, if you see that in Tokyo, 5 years before the Games, they have already achieved their budget in marketing, which was a very ambitious budget with $1.3 billion US dollars. If you combine all these facts, then you can see that even if 22 is the last before Olympic Agenda, that Olympic Agenda, on the other hand, has already a very positive effect also on 2022.
Yeah, so gentleman here and then Mark Beeson over there, and I'm afraid that probably will be time, I'm afraid. So gentleman just here, yeah.
Thank you. I'm Kentaro Sugino from the Yomiuri Shimbun of Japan. A follow-up to the question before about the stadium in Tokyo. You've mentioned requiring Olympic requirements. And can you tell us in detail about what these Olympic requirements are? Thank you.
Well, I'm not an architect, you know. I guess it's an excellent 400-meter track. It's a good football field. There are seats where all the spectators can see well, and for the rest, you please ask our experts. You can be sure that there will be no exaggerated requirements. It is just to ensure the best conditions for the athletes.
Thank you. Last question to Mark Beeson there, please.
Mark Beeson, Around the Rings. You talked about the challenges for Rio that were discussed today. Can you identify those challenges? How concerned are you about the issues ahead for Rio? And how is the IOC addressing, perhaps through Nawal or Gilbert Felly in Rio? Thanks.
We have the issues which we discussed today again. This is first of all the cleaning of the bay. There where the measures have been presented, and the twofold the measures, some which are starting already now, some others which will be applied then just before the Olympic Games and during the Olympic Games to make sure that there is the safety and the health of the athletes is ensured, as well as a fair competition. Then we have discussed the progress and the time pressure on the International Broadcasting Center, for instance, where time is really pressing. We have, on the other hand, seen great progress in the Olympic Village. We have seen great progress in other sports facilities, and we have been reassured that also the public transportation projects, which are forming the core of the great legacy these games will leave to Rio, that they will be ready in time.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. See you around and look forward to seeing you on Friday for the announcement. Thank you.
Thank you.